Okay, thank you. Now, Michael, you can introduce yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. So like you guys said, my name is Michael. I actually just graduated from UCLA class of 2021, so maybe like 3-4 months ago. By background, I guess I studied chemical engineering. I had a big emphasis in kind of like the biotech industry. I interned at a pharmaceutical company here before, and now I'm currently working at ZS as a decision analytics associate.
I can go next. So thank you for inviting us for this event. My name is Shi. I joined ZS, I think pretty much similar time with Michael. I joined ZS in July, and I graduated from UCLA this year in June from chemical engineering department, and I studied, that's a master's program. So I worked with Professor Nassim Anabi and did a research with her. Yeah, so that's my background. And in undergrad, I studied chemistry at UCSD, and I also interned at Takeda Pharmaceutical as a medicinal chemist. So yeah, that's pretty much my academic and internship background. Yeah.
I can go next. Hi, I'm Sola from ZS. I'm a SIP associate and have been working here for about 1.5 years. Prior to that, I was also a master's student at UCLA studying bioengineering, and happy to discuss more about consulting, engineering at UCLA, things like that.
And are those all the panelists for today?
Yes. It's going to be those 3 fabulous panelists, and then I will jump in when necessary with recruiting related questions.
Yeah, of course. So I would just like to get started by asking our first question to all our panelists. So what do you work in, and how is it different or similar to what you studied in college?
I guess I can get us started. So I studied chemical engineering, like I said before. I guess engineering classes, as you guys might know, are very technical, and they require you to like memorize a lot of formulas and whatnot, right? But I guess transitioning more into a consulting role was kind of a big shift for me, especially since engineering taught me a lot of technical things. I had to kind of pick up on a lot of the soft skills. So, working as a decision analytics associate, you have to be working on a lot of like flexible programs, like market research, whatnot. And what this means is that you kind of have to interact a lot with clients as well as with your ZS team. So what that has to translate to is that you have to be able to really communicate your ideas very effectively. And it doesn't really focus too much on your technical expertise per se, but you have to be able to kind of showcase and elaborate what your thinking process is and how you're getting from point A to point B, so that everyone on your ZS team and everyone on the client team can really understand where you're going. And so I think that, that's probably been the biggest thing I've learned so far on the job.
Cool. Yeah, I think I largely agree with Michael. And something to add on is I feel like, because I am a graduate student at UCLA before, so most of my work is doing research in lab, and then the deadlines is basically set by myself with the discussion with my professor. So, the deadline or the project is kind unpredictable. It's depending on, the research progress and, what kind of experiments we're doing. However, in consulting, when you are staffed on a project, you actually have a very clear scope of the project, and then your team already set, the deadline, or that's in the most of the case, and also you already know, what final deliverable you're going to present to your clients. So in that sense, it's more predictable in the consulting work. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would agree to what's been said a lot. While a lot of the work that we do in consulting doesn't directly correlate with like more of like the science or things that we learned in college, as we don't really get into like mechanisms of action or anything like that, even though like the products or clients that we're supporting to touch on some of those elements. We definitely don't really get super deep into like the science or like scientific background of things. But I would say like the higher level like processes or technical things that we learned do kind of help when it is like brought up in like some process or things that clients are interested in. And so it's, I think having a more technical background, it's nice to know kind of like how it's been done before, or what you've, to like have that context to be able to drive like higher level discussions and projects.
Yeah, thank you all so much for answering that question so in depth. Just again, I would like to say, for those of you that just joined, please sign in at the link that I send. Sorry to those of you that have been here since like 7, that have to listen to that all over again. But I just wanted to make sure to get that out there. So the next question that I have for the panelists is, what does a typical workday consist of?
Yeah, I would say, I guess there's no really typical workday, to be honest. So that really depends on the client. Of course, you can have like days where you have like meetings and you have like interviews scheduled where you're talking to like maybe patients or doctors or whatnot, right? And those are pretty preset. But then some days you have like days where you have to like talk to the client and like, you have to figure out like, hey, how far along are we on this project? What kind of results have we found? And from those discussions with the client, you kind of have to like modify or re-alter your course just to see if you're on the right path or you're producing the results or research that you want to produce. And ultimately, that can really alter like your schedule day to day, because like, let's say one thing doesn't go right with the client, maybe you guys have different expectations or something, then you have to shift your entire schedule to meet those expectations. So I would say it's very spontaneous.
Yeah, I think, it's sometimes we need to, be flexible about the schedule. So maybe I can just give an example. So right now I am working with value and access team, where we help company find their pricing and access strategy. So a typical day for me is, I usually start my day at 9 o'clock, and then I'll, reply emails, look through updates sent from the team. And then usually from 9:30 to 10, I'll have a 30-minute check-in with my consultant. And then we'll talk about, daily tasks, the upcoming client meeting, what are some, small tasks I need to do today. And then from 10 to 12, I usually work on slides. And as associate, I will schedule meetings for the team, and then we might have some client meeting during the 10 to 12, the 2 hours slot. And then from 12 to 1, I usually have lunch, or we sometimes have the virtual event. For example, we have 1 hour with principal. We have some diversity inclusive group meetings during that time. And then in the afternoon, typically from 1 to 2, we schedule internal team check-in meeting. So we'll discuss, about the project progress. We'll talk about how to change the slides together. And then from 2 to 5:30, sometimes I will work on slides or attend client meetings, summarize the client meeting notes, and then share the next steps with the clients. And then also we have, a lot of trainings, and I sign up at an Excel training. That's a 6-week commitment. So I'll do that training as well in the afternoon. So I'm pretty much done around 5:30 or 6 o'clock, but it really depends on whether I have, teammates from India or from other offshore team. So if I do have, then I'll send end of the day email to the offshore team, and then we might have a night call from 9 to 9:30 or 9:30 to 10. So that's pretty much a typical day as example for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree to that. Since it was covered kind of in depth, I'll just mention my day-to-day is also very similar, kind of very divided into like 3 parts, whether it's in client or internal meetings, preparing deliverables and slide decks, or doing some of those administrative tasks that was mentioned, like scheduling meetings and following up with clients or internal team members to get reviews or feedback on deliverables.
Cool, thank you. So our next question that I have is, what kind of classes or extracurriculars did you do in university or college that were the most impactful and helpful for you in preparing you for the workforce?
That's a great question. I never thought I would be saying this, but I think the lab classes are the best classes, even though I really dislike them. The reason why is because the technical classes don't really help you too much in terms of like the work, because you'll learn everything on the job. But the lab classes, like the communication skills, the ability to work through a lot of pieces of data, the ability to create hypotheses and find solutions and find like answers from these problems, is something that is so crucial in any job, especially when you're dealing with consulting. And so I think that the lab classes were definitely the most instrumental.
Yeah, I think I had this similar answer, but also I feel like just generally, I feel like any class with a final project or presentation assignment would definitely work and help, is because you can get a sense of what's like working on a project with different teammates look like, and then I feel like it's better to understand how to collaborate with different type of personalities, right? And then how to speak up for your ideas during your like working sessions, and how to like put all the slides together and then present in front of a group of people. So I think that's really helpful for as a preparation for the consulting work.
Yeah, it might be specific to the master's bio-e program that I was in, but I remember our curriculum was pretty flexible. And so even though I was a bio-e major, I was still able to take some business classes in the Anderson School. And I think undergrads also have that. Engineering undergrad students at UCLA also have that in like tech breadth. And I think that was really helpful to kind of prepare for what kind of like reports or deliverables kind of look like in the consulting industry. And so I think that helped prepare me a lot.
Thank you. And the next question is, how do you translate engineering skills that you learned to a more strategy/business focus in your job?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing about engineering is your ability to problem solve. So like I mentioned before, as an engineer, you're always given like little bits of information, and then from that problem, you're supposed to come up with an answer, right? In consulting, it's not always a one answer, but you're always left with little bits of information where you're supposed to like take these pieces of data, and then from those pieces of data, you kind of come up with a solution, or maybe a couple solutions that work, and you want to present that to the client. So I think having that analytical mindset of using numbers to evidence your answers is very useful.
Yeah, I think the analytical problem solving skills that we developed as engineer is definitely something very helpful, and then something I think we like need to translate into the workplace. And another thing I think could be as an engineer or as a scientist, sometimes we think about solution in many different ways, and then we're trying to be thorough and exhaustive. So I think sometimes when I have a strategic problem, or I need to make a strategy design, I try to apply that thorough exhaustive thinking process into like solving that specific problem. So I feel like that like the thinking or the thorough mindset was trained by the engineering courses that I had before in school. So, yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely agree to what's been said. A lot of the more strategic or problems that we're given in projects are not super straightforward. And so it definitely requires a bit of problem solving, like thinking and trying to troubleshoot those issues. And so it's definitely good to have an analytical mindset when you get into those issues and try to kind of reframe or pick out like the most insightful insights to and show and figure out a way to present that in the best way to clients so that it's very actionable and makes sense for what they're trying to resolve. A lot of the I feel like formulas or processes that you learn in engineering can also kind of be very methodical, which is a bit similar to like a lot of the frameworks we apply in consulting and trying to address different business strategies. So I feel like in that sense, there's a little bit of a parallel there as well.
Yeah, I'm glad that we're all learning problem solving skills in our engineering classes. I'm just curious, is there a class that stood out to any of you that you took that has really benefited you since?
I would say maybe like the capstone project, because at least for chemical engineering, what we had to do was we had to like design an ammonia plant. And if you're gonna like Google an ammonia plant, there's not too much specific data. So you kind of have to like interpret the data from Google and then kind of make your own process to ultimately create like if an ultimate chemical process like that works. So like using like that vague data that you gained online, you're able to create a very like cohesive and thorough answer. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. And I also want to ask about another question that I have is about your current job and like what is your favorite part of that job?
Yeah, I would definitely say the culture and the people as yes. For me at least, at UCLA, when things were virtual, I don't know about you guys, but it was kind of hard to really like highlight the social aspects, especially in a virtual setting, because it's very hard to connect with people and stuff. But going into ZS, it's been kind of a complete opposite. There's been so many social events happening, so many things being planned, so many team dinners being planned. It just makes you feel like you're part of the team. You're very immersed in the culture, and it's hard to not feel like you're a stranger there.
Yeah, for me, I think it's, oh yeah, go ahead.
No, you can go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I was just saying, for me, it's definitely also, people and culture. And actually today is our first day of office opening. And I feel like I've been having Zoom calls for the last 3 months, but I feel like, I don't know why, like with ZS people, I feel the same, like using Zoom call or in person. I feel like it's just, I think it's a collaborative spirit. And then, whether it's in person or with Zoom call, that's just like a tool or a platform. So I really enjoy working with other ZSers, and I can feel I always learn something from my team or from the project. And another thing I liked is the fast pace. So I feel like I am actually doing something meaningful every day, whether it's deliver the project materials to our clients or working on some internal projects. So I feel like it's, I am doing something right, doing something meaningful every day. So that's another part I like my job.
Yeah. In addition to the culture and working in project teams, I would say that I like the diversity of projects I get to work on. At CS, we have fractional staffing, which means that we are on multiple projects at the same time. And I enjoy kind of having that diversity of working on different projects that may have like different approaches or different methods to kind of get to like the issue that we're trying to solve. So I definitely enjoy kind of having that variety, and which definitely comes with like different learning curves and things like that. But I definitely enjoy like having that challenge and being able to kind of learn different topics in kind of a short amount of time.
Yeah, it's so nice to hear about all of your favorite aspects of your jobs. The next question that I like to ask is kind of the opposite. Like, what are the biggest challenges, or, well, the biggest challenges in industry at the moment, and how do you as a team tackle them?
This is a pretty hard question. I guess I can explain or talk about like, I guess just maybe more about like healthcare consulting and whatnot and the industry in general. But I think that ZS has done a great job with everything they've done so far. I think, you know, the growth of ZS over the past like couple of years has been amazing. I think that like one thing, and don't quote me on this, but I think one thing that, you know, we could potentially look to in the future, or something that's very like apparent in the biotech industry right now, is, you know, these huge biotech companies acquiring smaller ones, and, you know, merger and acquisition things are very cool. And I think some things ZS could like, you know, potentially dip their toes into in the future. I'm not sure if they do it right now, but you know, I think that like working with these big deals could like be super interesting, because you're not only facing like, I don't know, internal problems or internal issues, but you're also facing external issues as well. So I think those like these kind of challenges or these kind of problems in the future could be something that ZS looks into.
Yeah, this is a really great question, and maybe I can talk about, because I have only worked on value and access projects, so maybe I can talk about, you know, what are some challenges that's in the value and access space. So the most common issue we've seen is, you know, for pharmaceutical companies, how to make sure that when they launch a drug in the market, how to make sure they maximize the access. For example, to payers such as insurance company or government. So we're actually, you know, doing some pricing strategy, or we are designing the clinical trials for the company to, you know, really maximize the value out from the clinical trials, or also, you know, through some contracting design with the other, you know, payers, with other companies. So I feel like I wouldn't say the biggest, but, you know, a lot of challenges in value and access space are associated with, you know, how to communicate with payers, how to show the value of the product to the payers and to other access stakeholders. Yep.
Also agree that this is a tough question. I would say that one of the biggest challenges right now from the practice areas that like the projects that I've worked on is to kind of understand like how manufacturers, like pharmaceutical manufacturers, will strategize or think about kind of engaging physicians or hospital systems kind of once COVID is kind of contained, and understanding what it means for their field teams to kind of go back into hospitals to engage physicians. I think at the beginning of COVID and when everyone went virtual, a lot of the project, or maybe not a lot, but a lot of the projects that I was exposed to had to do with understanding like what are virtual solutions, or what are virtual solutions or platforms, or what are strategies that clients can look to understand how to interact remotely and engage physicians. And now that things are kind of turning back to the way it was, but it was they're now trying to understand like how to do like the reverse, or kind of try to understand what the best like hybrid model is for engaging physicians like in a mix of in person and virtual in virtual ways. And so I think that is still something that various clients are looking to address, and will involve a lot of like, you know, research and kind of workshops and discussions to understand what the best approach would be there.
Thank you all for answering that pretty tough question. I'm sure the next one will be a little easier. This question is, what is a piece of advice you would have told your college self before you entered the workforce?
Yeah, I think a great thing to try out, especially since you're in college, is to try it as much as you can. And I guess what I mean by that is that usually with engineering, I know our schedules are pretty tough. You know, we're booked with a lot of classes and homework and stuff like that. But you know, in terms of like career opportunities, there's so much more out there than just engineering. And I think ZS is like a great way kind of like explaining that. So like I know Sola kind of mentioned there was fractional staffing. You know, you're allowed to take on 2 projects at once. You know, that really allows you to kind of expand your skills, not only just work on one singular project, whether it be market research or something like that, or forecasting. So, you know, being able to really expand on your skills and develop different kind of traits such as like communication, soft skills, as well as technical skills from the consulting side is a super crucial thing that I think I wish I tried out more in college, because I only focus on the engineering things.
Cool. Thanks for the answer, Michael. Yeah, for me, I would think that while it's very important to, you know, keep a good GPA and also have a good relationship with professors, with, you know, other classmates, I feel like one piece of advice I would tell myself would be investing some time on 1 or 2 hobbies. So because I feel like it's an very easy way to socialize people if you find, you know, you two or you and other teammates have same hobby. So you can, you know, ask people around and you can, you know, hang out with your workmates. For example, if you like surfing, if you like dancing, I feel like, you know, since you're in college, you have some time, you know, during the weekends, and try to investing time to really grow that hobbies and really, you know, investing time in it. I think that will be really helpful, you know, and it will be a really great way to socialize people in the workplace. Mm-hmm.
I think I would tell myself to keep an open mind. I think as Michael mentioned, I was also pretty kind of focused on like the engineering and like research side of things, and didn't venture out as much into different types of career opportunities that I might have after college. And so I think just kind of trying to explore all the avenues like earlier on is something I wish I had done if I were back in college.
I'm gonna add on here. I think, you know, from me, right, and this is gonna be funny coming from the recruiter, but have fun. I think we get so wrapped up in, you know, what job we're gonna get or what internship we're gonna get, and we sort of forget the day-to-day things. And I was sort of that way too, right? When I was a senior, I was super stressed. I actually graduated college without a job. I had no idea what my next steps were. And I like the one thing I miss, I'm a big foodie. Like I loved going to the restaurants. I loved checking out, you know, all the different spots. So definitely, you know, if food is your thing and you love to do that, or, you know, I love like checking out the different ice cream spots. But just be sure that you're enjoying. I know the whole recruitment process is stressful, and school is stressful, and there's so many other stress going on. You know, take a deep breath when you can, and just really sort of enjoy each other, enjoy having your friends sort of at an arm's length from you. I think, you know, one thing just in life in general, right? Sometimes it's not always easy. My friends are 2,000 miles away from me right now, which is tough. I miss when they were just down the street. So that would be my one piece of advice, that I wish I enjoyed it a little bit more when I was at school.
Yeah, thank you, Sydney, and all the other panelists for speaking about that advice. I'd also like to ask, what are the best resources for people who want to get more involved in consulting, data analytics and or project management?
Yeah, I think in terms of like really wanting to grow yourself, I think UCLA is super great because they have so many extracurricular clubs and whatnot, like for consulting, data analytics, project management, all of these stuff. And I think I remember when I was first interviewing for ZS, I didn't really know too much about consulting interviews, case interviews, and especially for from an engineering side, you're more, I guess, experienced on behavioral questions and technical interviews, right? And so I didn't really have much experience with case interviews. So for me to have friends who were in these clubs and to have them help me kind of guide me through this process and help me to learn how to take the interviews was super helpful. And I think just getting involved in the community at UCLA is very important.
Yeah, so for me, I think one is maybe you can look for some research or project opportunities. For example, if you're interested in, some biodegradable sealants from one of your class, then you can reach out to the professor and ask if there is any, research opportunities or like any project that you can do with the PhD student or with the professor, her himself. And because oftentimes during the interview, you will be asked about question about, what's the most challenging part of the project or research you've done, or can you give an example of how you analyze the data, right? So if you have some research opportunities or project opportunities, you can easily find example and then, like dive deeper into the details when you have the interview. So I think, leveraging the research and project opportunities in school, I think that really helped me. And then the second thing I would think is, explore some courses out of engineering department. So for example, I did one course in management department, which is the global economy. That was taught by Professor Christian Depot. I highly recommend that course. I feel like that really opens up my mind to the global economic dynamics, and that really got me interested in the business world. So I think, yeah, that's two resources I can think of. Yeah.
Yep, would definitely agree with kind of what's been said. At the end of the day, like in terms of like extracurriculars or resources, I think it's just important to find something that you really enjoy and can make like a meaningful contribution in, or can you can learn from. I think like before kind of getting into the interview process or application process for consulting, I thought it was like very critical to have something that would be like a direct related experience. But during the interview process, I found that like my interviewers like don't really care that I was I enjoyed what I was doing and was able to really explain and kind of show like why that was like a relevant experience or thing that I could or value that I could bring to ZS. And so I think you can find like relevant resources or experiences kind of anywhere. You just have to reframe or think about why it would be it can tie to like the career that you're looking to have. And so as mentioned, UCLA has like tons of classes and resources to support that. And so I think you should definitely just try to see kind of what you enjoy and kind of how you can get involved.
Thank you all. I just have one last question. And then after that, we'll open it up to everyone to ask their questions in the chat. So if you would like to ask a question, you can start thinking of it now. So my last question that I have, and it's probably best suited for Sydney is to tell us a little bit about the opportunities at ZS Associates that are available to our students, and what qualities are you looking for in applicants?
Yeah, so good questions. We have two opportunities right now, just so everybody knows, we are recruiting. You'll see everything is on Handshake. So all of our events at UCLA are on Handshake, as well as our job opportunities. So I specifically recruit for two different jobs. So one is the Decision Analytics Associate role that you've heard a little bit about, and then the other is Strategy Insights and Planning Associate. So maybe from the ZSers, you just want to give a quick overview, maybe the high level difference.
Yeah, I guess like I kind of mentioned, Decision Analytics Associates is more focused on the analytics side and kind of like the conclusions and taking in the data and coming up with a solution side. So basically, once you have a project in line, you kind of go through all the data and you collect all the research data. And I guess it's up to you. Your job is kind of more on to kind of like create these hypotheses, see if they're correct, see if these conclusions are correct, and present that to the client. I think strategy, insights, and planning is more towards creating projects in the future and looking kind of more towards how are we going to manage this project? What's kind of the timeline I want to have for this project? What are the kind of the demands that the client needs and things like that? And so I think that's kind of what those two entail, but the others can add some more insight if I missed anything.
Awesome. Yeah. Anything else to add, Michael? I think you gave a great recap. So, I think Sola was mentioning, on the resume, right? We're not looking at anything specific, in terms of major. I know most of you might be engineering majors. So that's totally perfect. We're not just looking for business administration or just looking for, political science. It could really be anything. We just want to see an interest and a passion into what you're doing and tying that into consulting. So one thing that I did want to mention is we are, you've heard a lot about pharma tonight. We are 80 to 85% a pharma biotech company, right? So we work a lot with, those pharmaceutical clients, but we do have other areas just sort of depending on the office location. So we do travel transportation, we do, oh my gosh, I'm blanking. We're doing some high tech in the West Coast as well. So there is a lot of different areas. If pharma isn't maybe your thing, you'll definitely try to, because of our fractional staffing model, get your chance to sort of feel it out, which is great. But there's a lot of other opportunities as well and lots of room to grow. So if you are interested, happy to connect further. I can drop my email in the chat, but feel free and drop your resume by 11:59 on October 11th. So you still have a week and a half, I believe, to sort of get everything together. I'm sorry, just a week. October 11th is already Monday. I'm losing track of the days, but happy to talk a little bit more about the application process if anyone is interested.
Sydney, do you have any links that you could drop in the chat?
Yes. I will do that in 1 second. They're on Handshake, so you'll have to sign into Handshake, but I will drop it over.
Okay, thanks so much.
Of course.
In the meanwhile, does anyone have questions that they'd like to ask? You can drop in the chat or unmute yourself.
Hi, my name's Roma. I have a question about the general work-life balance at ZS. How would you?
I can go first, I guess. I think the work-life balance is very good. There's a very good, I guess, play hard, work hard kind of culture in ZS. But in general, I think one of my associates kind of told me this, but during the weekdays, we can maybe be expected to work overtime a little bit, but we do have personal boundaries, and we talk about that with our managers and whatnot on kind of like personal boundaries that we want to set for ourselves. So like maybe, for instance, you don't want to work on the weekends, and everyone will respect that if that's the case, right? And so I think that, while we do have a lot of work on hand, we do a great job in managing, work and life.
Yeah, totally agree. So I feel like it also is like project dependent. I know I heard maybe some due diligence project will take more time because they have a tight deadline. But for myself, I typically work 40 to 50 hours per week, and I normally wouldn't work during the weekends. And it's also important to set expectations with your team, and then everyone knows, the preference of, morning calls or night calls, especially when you are working with, offshore teams. So for me, I think the work-life balance at ZS is pretty good.
And I guess just a clarifying comment, there's never an expectation to work on weekends. And so just wanted to get that out there. In terms of work-life balance, I think it definitely would definitely agree that setting personal boundaries is a very important factor, especially as we've been working remote for the past year or so. Your project teams are not necessarily aware of like what projects you're staffed on and how much time you're actually putting into different projects. And so you just have to kind of keep an open line of communication with your consultants and managers to let them know that some weeks are kind of tough because you have a lot of like client meetings or things like that happening, and they'll definitely be happy to adjust kind of your workload across the projects and make sure that you're not feeling like, super overwhelmed or anything like that. So it's definitely important to like set personal boundaries and then make sure to like communicate with your team so that they know what's happening throughout the process.
You also have lots of points of check-in. So we pair you with what we call a professional development coach, and you have more of a peer-to-peer buddy that you definitely will utilize. And if things are crazy, definitely, obviously, we want you to share that. I highly encourage you. I need to do this. But if you have, like a 30-minute walk or 30-minute yoga or whatever during the day, definitely take those breaks. People are very respectful here of our calendars. So if you have something on your calendar, they will either not schedule over it or ask if they absolutely need to. So definitely encourage you to sort of do what makes you happy. So I'm, more of a morning person than an afternoon person. So like in the mornings, sometimes I'll just have a little bit of a hole to go for a walk and grab a coffee. And so just those like little personal times is really great in terms of a work-life balance. The other thing that I will say that's a little bit different than some of the other consulting firms that travel Monday through Thursday on a plane, we actually have our clients centered around our offices. So all that sort of requires is a quick, either drive in your car or travel or public transportation, and then you can sleep in your own bed every night, which is great.
Is it okay if I ask a question? I'm not sure if that was the end of that discussion.
Yes, yep, go ahead.
So I'm Alicia, I'm a senior chemical engineering major, and I had a question on what are the types of metrics or performance indicators that are usually like reviewed in the employees in the company?
Yeah, maybe Simi can answer this question like more than myself, but I know our company has a competency model where it's like, for example, like problem solving skills, project management, etc. And then for maybe consultant or manager level, they will have another scope, which is business development. But all the points are not, I'm not covering the exhaustive list, but those are some points that you can think about, the points that we're looking for, or we're looking at as an associate or associate consultant as yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I do also want to add on that GS is very big on performance and also giving feedback. So usually when you work on a project, you'll not only receive, feedback from your manager on, some of the things that you perhaps did well, or, some of the things you could work on, but you also receive feedback on some of the other associates working on the team. And so that you get kind of like a whole clear picture of, what's going well and what's not. And it really allows you the chance to improve. Yeah.
I'm going to quickly share my screen here. Hang on. Let me know if you guys can see it. Perfect. So we have 3 core values, as you can see here. They're simple, but great. And it's treating people right, getting it right, and doing the right thing. And so, I think you heard a little bit, we sort of have a competency model that we base, promotions off of and things like that. And so it's all sort of surrounding these 3, core values that we have. So we want to make sure that, you as an employee are sort of hitting each of these. And there's a lot of, if you think about these as sort of like a big umbrella, right? These are sort of like the top of the umbrella, and there's a bunch of things that fall under them. But these are sort of the main things. And definitely, if you are interested, happy to send over this link and sort of talk about it more in depth, but hopefully that is helpful.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's exactly what I was thinking of when I asked the question, or these type of things. I also
Awesome.
had a question if you guys can share your contact information for any follow-up with emails and things like that.
I will drop mine in the chat. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, yes, Sydney does that. Does anyone have one more question? I think we have time for one last question. Okay, cool. If not, I will stop the recording, and I would like to thank you all for coming. Thank you to the panelists for answering all of these questions. I hope you have a great rest of your week. Take it easy. Second week is just starting, and yeah, I hope you all have a good time.